Hi, heroes. I'm Stanley, and welcome to the Rob and Todd Show. You know, most of the young people in this country read comics, and those who are young in heart, of course. Well, I've got a treat for all of them today. Two of the top talents in the comic book business, Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, are here to tell everything they know about how to draw comics. It ought to take a couple of minutes, I guess. Hiya, guys.
Hey, Stan. How you doing, Stan?
Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld. Good thing I practiced your names a minute before you came, right?
You know what? We're here to, give you a relief, you know?
I can use a lot of that. Now that I've done the introduction, the rest of it is up to you. I'm going to take a little nap because I've been in the studio most of the day. You guys go and elucidate and entertain and educate the public, and I'll be here when you come back.
Okay, so we'll maybe have a few surprises when we come back.
Okay, I'd love it.
Okay.
All right.
Go get them, guys.
See you, Stan.
Break a leg.
Okay, ready?
So what's up first?
You take the seat. I'm going to be lazy on this one.
Okay.
Okay, now the first vid that I did, I was kind of lazy on it. I didn't really show the kids anything. You showed them more in yours, and hopefully the other guys have showed them. So what we're going to do is we should probably do something that's a little more practical. Let's get down to the basics probably and show them. I find that in the mail that a lot of kids ask the same questions, like what kind of inks do you use? How do you use brush? Do you use a pen? What size of paper? I mean, a lot of kids don't even know what kind of paper that they use. One of the big mistakes that I know that a lot of kids seem to end up doing is when they start inking, they end up using rapidographs or ballpoint pens or even felt tip pens.
Markers.
That's not really the way to start the thing. What you got to do is, unfortunately, we don't have that many brushes here with us because right now we don't use the brushes. We use Crocol pens right here. Guys like Terry Austin, Joe Rubenstein a bit, Scott Williams, Jim Lee. They use what we call Hunt's mapping points. There's anything from like a number 97 tip to number 108. The numbers depend on the flexibility of each one of those pen tips, and depending on whether you press hard or you press light or whether you need a fat line or a thin line will depend basically on what tip it is. What I always tell kids to do is go out to the art stores, basically grab one of each. So if you go to the Hunt's Mapping Point place, they've got all of them in little containers. Grab a couple of each one, take them home and play with them, and see which one is the best for you. Also, go get a couple $15, $20 brushes. Don't go get a cheap $2 brush because it's just going to split. The hairs are going to be all over the place. It's not going to do you any good. Go get some good sable tip brushes and spend the money on it and see whether you want to do brush work or you want to do pen work. To each his own. We're not going to force you one way or the other. So
you want to use some form of India ink, Higgins, Black Magic. See anything? It says India ink, waterproof. What do you use? You use a 102?
I use a 102, a Hunt's Mapping Point 102. Now the best thing about working like as a pro is if you guys get into Marvel DC, all you viewers out there, you get them for free. You don't even got to pay for the suckers. You just phone them up, tell them you need some supplies, and they send them to you. So there's one incentive to get in there for free, guys. You don't have to pay for supplies anymore. Okay, now the other thing that they seem to have, I don't think most people realize that we reduce the pages. Now an average comic book page is about this size. I mean, I don't know what the size is like, about 5 by 7 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a little bigger than that.
But our black and whites are actually done 10 by 15. So we get the stuff pre-boarded from Marvel or DC or whether we get it from a company or something like that. But our pages are actually 10 by 15, which is about the size of Rob's ego. Although Bob Harris says it's usually about the size of a double-page spread. But this is about the size you want to be drawn because we're going to end up reducing it. It also gives you enough room that you don't have to do those tiny panels so tiny. People think that those tiny panels are like this big.
Yeah, you got to work the size.
Okay, now what we're going to do here, Rob, is that we're going to try and create, let's say maybe from a blank page, we're going to go all the way in and give them what our thinking is from a blank page. Depending on what the story is, we're going to show them a little bit of coloring. We're going to show them a little bit of how we ink. We've already shown them some of the tools. What do you rough out with? Like
I usually use a notepad, and then when I rough out, I use markers. It's the only time I use markers is when I'm doing roughs or layouts. Like I usually work about this size, laying out a page, and once I figure out.
So you do thumbnail sketches first.
Yeah, I always do thumbnails, which are just a form of sketching out your story. So you get all you work out all the kinks, on this size as opposed to on your 11 by 17 paper, and then then you transfer it there, or you can just look at it and take it over there. You can use a camera, you can trace it, whatever.
See, now people also have overhead projectors that they blow up the stuff. Now some guys will draw little small things this size, thumbnail drawings like Rob does, and they throw the little guys in here, and then they'll blow them up to full size, 10 by 15. The reason that's a good idea sometimes is because then you don't lose a lot of the... I find that the more steps you do, the more your characters become stiff. You know what I mean? Well, yes. And I see guys that they do little 2-inch drawings, and they do 5-inch drawings, and then they transfer it on, and they do it in pencil, then they do it by ink, and by the time they actually get it done, what they actually had in the pencil little tiny stage was actually more dynamic and more exciting to look at. So I think that the less you actually repeat yourself, the more that the energy is still on the page.
Okay, but see, that is one method, but actually I just do that method you just said. So for some guys, working smaller is better than working bigger.
Your deadlines suck too, don't they?
No way, they're better than yours. And drawing this large for me is harder, because the bigger you get, the more your stuff expands. The bigger your eyes are, the bigger the space between your eyes and your nose. I work better small, because that's just, everything's confined. I can see what I'm doing.
But then you blow them up from there.
And I can do a close up. Well, sure, but I go in pretty tight. I'll go in there, and I'll give them like a nose. Where placement of things is, placement of the eyes, placement of the mouth if he's screaming or something. And then I go to a copy machine. You can go to your local Xerox store or copy shop and get something copied there, because a projector can run you, some pretty hefty cash there, can run pretty expensive. That's one method. You can lay it out straight on the page. Plenty of guys go straight to the page, and boom, they're in and out of a page and onto a next one. I mean, this is a funky method. This is just the one I use. I go small, I blow it up, I got a light table, or you can put it up to your window if you can't afford a light table, and just transfer it that way. But don't, like Todd said, don't go real tight in there. Leave something so you can have some room to ink. I mean, for instance, this drawing is pretty loosely sketched out. When I go in and ink this, much the same as you do on your work here, you're going in and tightening up. The kids can see you've roughed in, your stomach muscles and stuff. But I know you're going to go in there and about 1,000 lines in there.
Now we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. That right now a lot of guys are starting to pencil and ink themselves.
Okay.
So some of the young guys now that are maybe watching the video that are trying to aspire. The one thing that I don't think happens is they don't hire you for 2 jobs at once.
No,
so I see.
Specialized.
We're going to go through penciling, inking, coloring, all these things, and if you want to try all of them, I highly recommend it. But the one thing I also tell kids is, on the way to doing all those things, break them up. When you do your pencils, make a copy of that. Then when you ink it, make a copy of that. Then when you do the coloring, make a copy of that. Because if you hand in a penciled, inked, and colored page, the average editor is going to say, I'm assuming that you want to try out for all 3 jobs. Because if you just want to try out as a penciler, you're not showing me you're penciled. And so not too many kids are actually professionally talented in 3 fields at once.
That's true.
Most of us usually get in there at one, we're good enough to break in, and then we kind of have to claw our way and get another job or something like that.
So if you can't draw real well, you can come in as an inker and then develop as a penciler. So, I mean, I know what you're saying, so go ahead. Don't stop.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm serious. Just you're right. You should specialize. Todd's right. You go in there and you show them a pencil and ink work. He's going to think you're trying out for inks.
Because I see too many kids that end up being, it's the old jack of all trades, master of none. I say whatever one you like the most, I don't even care if it's the one you're the best at, but hopefully it is, the one that you're the best at and the one that you like the most, keep doing that one over and over and over, because what's going to end up happening is if you give them the different steps, you give them the pencils, you give them the inks, they can either say, hey, kid's a good penciler, kid sucks on the inks, we're going to have to get somebody else to ink them. Or we go, the kid can't draw worth heck, but he's a pretty good inker, maybe we can put him on an ink job or something like that. Yeah. You're opening yourself up to more than one job. So what you got to do out there as we go through the steps, again, don't cram all that onto one page. Break them up, and when you send off your samples, then do it. The other thing, too, and they're going to hate us for this one here, they tell you to send it to the submissions artist, to the submission editor. Wrong. That is a flunky. I'm telling you, usually the guy running there is the flunky. The guys that can give you the job is the editor. The editors are the ones that hire you. So what I tell the kids too, you do 3 pages, and when you do 3 pages, you make 50 copies of it, and when you make 50 copies of it, you send it to every single editor at Marvel, DC, Eclipse, Image Comics, and whatever other good comic company you can think of on the week. But send it to everybody, because you only need one editor to actually give you that first job before
And then you're cranking. You're rolling.
yanking, cranking.
There you go.
Okay, and the other biggest question that I get is, did you pay for that haircut?
Unfortunately, I did. Yeah.
That's brutal, buddy.
Sorry about that.
That's brutal.
It's an old joke.
Okay, now.
Okay, should we go to
Okay,
to layouts?
well, give him. Okay, we'll go to the layouts, and then what we'll do is tighten up a little bit the pencils. Show
Okay.
him like
Okay, well,
how much tightness that we should go on some of the penciling.
Okay. Well, when it comes to layout, a lot of people struggle with storytelling. There's a lot of great storytellers out there: Jack Kirby, Frank Miller, Gil Kane. You know, when I approach a page, this is how I was shown. You want to use the inverted S, or basically a Z, to get through your page. You want to set up your page so that your eye is falling. This is going to make the difference between when that fan closes your book, whether he liked it a little more than the other one. The kid's not going to close the book and say, you're normally not going to close it and go, wow, I like that book better because Todd McFarlane utilized the inverted S. But it's a design element that's really effective. Oh, the Z.
Or for the Canadians, the Z.
There you go. It's just you want to fall through the page. And for instance, set this up here. It's a lot of storytelling, and this doesn't mean you can't draw gorgeous babes and muscular guys and evil villains. You can do that big on each page. Let me erase this real quick.
You want the big one?
Like right here. That's okay. Like, okay, here, I'm going to go for a face, all right? Juicy close-up, pull your reader in. Don't do tiny stuff. You know, that's been done a million times. Don't do tiny stuff. God used to beat this into me.
The one thing that I tell kids is I call it the 2-inch rule, and I won't tell you whose work taught me the 2-inch rule, but it's either 2-inch or 1-inch rule. Is I see too many comic books that I can hold my fingers apart, 1.5 inch, whatever, and I can almost go